We go from a top 15 featherweight matchup in the Apex main event last weekend to a top 15 welterweight matchup in the Apex event this weekend. That's right, back-to-back events in the warehouse in Las Vegas. This weekend, we will see the number 14 ranked welterweight in the world, Gabriel Bonfim, make his headlining debut against Randy Rude Boy Brown, who is also main eventing for the first time in his 9-year UFC career, with the winner inching themselves one step closer to the top 10 of 170 pounds. And it comes just 1 week prior to when the championship in their weight class will be getting defended at UFC 322 between Jack Della Maddalena and Islam Makhachev. The bigger Bonfim, Gabriel Bonfim, the 28-year-old out of Brazil, enters his first UFC main event with an 18-1 record overall, having finished 16 of those 18 with 13 of the 16 by way of submission. Him and his brother are both jiu-jitsu aces, and now he will look to put those skills to the test in a main event opportunity against Randy Brown. Gabriel Bonfim would earn his UFC contract on the 2022 season of Dana White Contender Series, where he would secure a first-round shoulder choke submission over Trey Waters, and then made his promotional debut in January of 2023, and since then has gone 5-1 in his UFC tenure, and his lone loss came in November of 2023 in a knockout loss to Nicolas Dalby. However, since that loss 2 years ago, Bonfim has fought 3 times and won all 3 of them in a row. A decision over Angelosa to begin the win streak, then a submission win over Chaos Williams, and he followed it up in June of this year with the biggest win of his career and the biggest step up in competition to date for him as well, in Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, the former multi-time title challenger. He would earn a decision victory there that would place him in the top 15. And while that win over Wonderboy was a massive win for the career of Bonfim, if you look at the scorecards, it was a razor close split decision where one of the 3 actually sided with the 40-plus-year-old Thompson. And then when you peel back the curtain even further and take a look at the stats, you can understand why. And that is because Stephen Wonderboy Thompson actually outstruck Gabriel Bonfim 42-40 in significant strikes and 78-55 in total strikes. However, the discrepancy comes when you look at the takedowns, as Bonfim was able to secure 5 takedowns, albeit Wonderboy did defend 9 of them successfully and rack up 5 minutes and 29 seconds of control time. So whether you feel that he should have won or lost that fight against Stephen Thompson, you can't argue that he can at least compete with some of the upper echelon guys in this division, and you could argue that he's taking a step back, giving Randy Brown this opportunity to take away the ranked spot from Bonfim's name. But of course we know Randy Brown is 35 years old. He's 7 or 8 years younger than that of Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, and for that reason alone, I would say that it's not necessarily a step back, but in terms of name value and someone not having a ranking, that is where that moniker can come into play. As for Rude Boy Randy Brown, his first main event in the UFC will come on his 21st walk to the octagon, which I'd be curious to know if that's the longest that a fighter has gone in UFC history without getting a main event slot. Someone let me know down in the comments below if you can dig up that information. And Randy does enter this fight with some momentum similar to his counterpart in Bonfim, as he has won 4 of his last 5 bouts, most recently a victory over Nicolas Dalby, the only man to ever defeat Gabriel Bonfim. He did that by knockout, and Randy Brown defeated Dalby, you guessed it, by knockout. I get it. MMA math doesn't always work, but at least keep that in mind. And if you peel back the curtain just a little bit further, you'll see that Randy Brown has actually won 8 of his last 10 bouts dating back to April of 2021, and the 2 losses are Jack Della Maddalena, the current champion of this weight class, and a razor-thin split decision loss to Brian Battle that came last year. This fight will inevitably come down to the success or lack thereof of the takedowns of Gabriel Bonfim and how Randy Brown's takedown defense will or will not stand up. Because Bonfim averages over 4 takedowns per 15 minutes with a 55% accuracy, and Randy Brown has a 73% takedown defense, so not the worst that you've ever seen, but also not the shiniest of percentages either. But if Randy can utilize his takedown defense to keep this fight standing, that is where things will get very interesting, because as I've already alluded to twice now, Bonfim's only loss in his career came by way of knockout to someone that has been knocked out by Randy Brown, and Randy Brown will be the bigger man in the octagon, 5.5 reach advantage that will allow for him to land long-rangey strikes that has sat plenty of his opponents down in the past. And if he can do that one more time here against Bonfim, he will reinsert himself back into the welterweight top 15 for the first time in a couple of years at this point. I know it's not the craziest of main events that we've ever seen, but it is a fight that can line the winner up for a pretty decent 2026, where at this point next year, they could be amongst the top 5 if they continue their winning ways. And again, it's happening just 1 week away from when the championship is being defended in this 170-pound division, and Randy Brown shares history with the champion of the weight class, so you got to think that he is coming in to make a statement to enter the new year with hot momentum. And for Bonfim, I feel that it's an opportunity to get that nasty taste out of the MMA community's mouths when they view his fight and victory over Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, someone that is beloved by the community. And if he can come out and have an emphatic victory and, dare I say, a finish over Randy Brown, that will definitely put him in the driver's seat for some big things in 2026. So be sure to give me your predictions and your bets for this UFC Vegas 111 main event down in the comments below. And from one Bonfim brother in the UFC Vegas 111 main event to the other Bonfim brother in the featured bout of the evening, we move from Gabriel to Ishmael. And although Gabriel is the bigger man of the two, he is actually the little brother to Ishmael, 28-29. And I say this in the most respectful way possible, but Gabriel Bonfim is also the more successful of the two brothers as well. So Ishmael is looking to gain momentum, whereas his brother is looking to continue it. And I say that because Ishmael Bonfim is just 2-2 in the UFC thus far and enters this fight off of a brutalizing loss to Nazim Sadikov back in February, where the fight would be called off at the end of round 1 due to a doctor stoppage. And his other loss in the UFC came by way of submission to Benoit Saint Denis in the very first round of their fight 2.5 years ago. This is a much needed opportunity for Bonfim to get a bounce back victory and take any bit of momentum that he can into the new year, but it's not going to come easy because he is taking on Taco Chris Padilla, who is 3-0 in the UFC, looking to move to 4-0 and maybe, just maybe, earn a ranked fight in his next outing should he get a victory here. The 30-year-old Padilla is 16-6 overall, having finished 13 of his 16 victories with 8 knockouts and 5 submissions. And while he is 3-0 in the UFC, he actually enters on a 6-fight win streak, having not lost since May of 2022. So if he can pick up his 4th consecutive win in the promotion, his 7th overall, over a pretty decent name in the outside looking into the lightweight ranks in Bonfim, I think he will absolutely earn the opportunity to face a ranked opponent, or at minimum be one more win away from doing so. In our next fight, we've got two bantamweights that are both in the midst of, dare I say, a career resurgence right now, and it's my man, Ricky Simón, taking on the 38-year-old veteran Raoni Barcelos. And I think that these two are competing to get a ranked opponent in their next bout, no matter who the victor is. They've both been in the rankings before, or maybe not Barcelos, but he's been damn close. He's been competing for a long time now, and he's riding a 3-fight win streak, so if he can pick up a 4th in a row, he will be right in that conversation. And for Ricky Simón, he's riding a 2-fight win streak, looking to pick up his 3rd consecutive. And I say career resurgence because for Ricky Simón, between April of 2023 and June of 2024, he found himself on a 3-fight skid, potentially fighting for his job back in February at UFC Seattle, and he would make good on that pressure-filled situation by getting a knockout over Javid Basharat in the very first round and got a victory in the summertime over Cameron Smotherman. And now he's looking to go 3-0 in 2025, and all of the hype that he had once built behind him could be back again heading into 2026. And the same can be said for Raoni Barcelos because between June of 2021 and August of 2023, he was on a stretch of losing 4 out of 5 fights, but righted the ship last February with a submission over Christian Quinones and now is riding 2 consecutive decision victories in a row over Peyton Talbot, the first man to ever defeat him professionally, and the former bantamweight champion Cody Garbrandt. That one came back in June. 3-fight win streak versus a 2-fight win streak, and both Ricky Simón and Raoni Barcelos are looking to go 3-0 in 2025. This is the fight that's going to get slept on the card that you absolutely should be paying attention to. For the 2nd consecutive week, we have ranked bantamweights taking on one another. This week, it's the number 10 ranked former title challenger Mayra Bueno Silva taking on the number 11 ranked Jacqueline Cavalcanti, who in my opinion is one of the most underrated women's fighters on the roster right now. Shitara Mayra Bueno Silva has not won a fight since February of 2023 because let us not forget, while she did finish Holly Holm in July of that year, it was overturned to a no contest following a positive drug test from Silva. So not only is she looking to win her first fight in over 2.5 years, but she's also looking to halt a 3-fight, potential 4-fight losing streak. And I'm going to be honest, I think it's a very uphill battle because the 9-1 former LFA champion Jacqueline Cavalcanti has not lost since March 4th of 2022 and enters this fight on a 7-fight win streak and is 4-0 in the UFC since debuting in September of 2023. She is just 28 years old, so not even in her prime years yet, but in my opinion is already displaying a very big discrepancy between her and her counterpart so far in terms of her striking accuracy, technical prowess, head movement, and footwork. So I believe that if Cavalcanti can keep this fight standing and not get taken down by Mayra Bueno Silva, this will be a very clear-cut decision win for her in the stand-up realm. I don't think it will be that competitive. And it comes at a pivotal point in time with a new champion in Kayla Harrison, with a potential new #1 contender determined last week in Norma Dumont. This women's bantamweight division desperately needs movement, and it seems like that is what we are getting toward the end of the year. So 2026 could be a bit of a resurgence year for the division as a whole. Fingers crossed. And we also have a pair of top 15 ranked strawweights fighting it out, as well as the number 13 ranked Tisha Pennington will be taking on the 15th ranked Denise Gomes. The tiny tornado Tisha Pennington has gone 2-1 since returning from having the birth of her child with her partner Raquel Pennington, losing her return bout to Tabitha Ricci, but since then winning back-to-back fights against Carla Esparza, the former champion, and Luana Pinheiro, who was in the top 15 at that point. And for what it's worth, she's actually won 5 of her last 7 bouts, with the only other loss coming over this stretch of time against Mackenzie Dern, who is now the strawweight champion of the world. However, it's safe to say that time is no longer on the side of Pennington, as she is 36 years of age, and at the lower weight classes we know that that doesn't hold true for as long as it does in the heavier weight classes. So we will see what she has left in the tank here by taking on the younger fighter in Gomes. And much younger at that, as she will be just 25 years of age, 11 years younger than the veteran Tisha Pennington, but holds a record of 11-3 and has won 5 of her last 6 bouts, enters this fight on a 3-fight win streak, most recently a victory over Elise Reed, a TKO at that back in May, and her only loss during this stretch came to the perennially ranked top 15 fighter Angela Hill. So it's a bit of a similar storyline with this fight and the aforementioned ranked bantamweight women's fight, because there is a new champion at bantamweight and there's a new champion, a very, very new champion at strawweight. Zhang Weili is competing at flyweight next weekend at UFC 322. Mackenzie Dern and Virna Jandiroba battled it out for the vacant title a couple of weeks ago. And now we'll see a 13th ranked veteran in Tisha Pennington versus the 15th ranked younger prospect in Denise Gomes battling it out to inch one step closer to the top 10. And I just want to throw out a couple of other fights that you need to keep your eyes on in terms of delivering a fan-friendly bout for us in the community. And that includes Matt Schnell and Joseph Morales in the flyweight division. That's actually the co-main event of this card. Muslim Salikov versus Yoros Medic in the welterweight division. And Christian Leroy Duncan versus Marco Tullio in the middleweight division. That one could be a very fun banger at 185. So that is it for the UFC Vegas 111 breakdown, and I want to get all of your thoughts, your predictions, and your bets down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this preview, please be sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new, because we are on the road to reaching 1,000 subscribers, and the goal is to hit that milestone before the end of the year, so any and all support is greatly appreciated. You can also join the discussion on social media at Verbal Spar MMA on X, Instagram, and TikTok, as well as like the Facebook page Verbal Spar MMA, and follow along on your favorite audio listening platforms such as Spotify and Apple, where every Monday and Friday podcast episodes release there. Have a great weekend, enjoy the fights, and I will see you all in the next video.